Welcome to ODSC India. Thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful to have you here, and I must say for myself, it's actually wonderful to be here. This is my first trip to India, and I have to say India is an incredible, incredible country to visit. So looking forward to seeing a few more sites over the next couple of days. Sorry. So I want to tell you a little bit about ODSC, but I'm not going to bore you with facts and figures. I want to take you on a journey. Don't worry, it's a very short journey, and I just heard it's got to be a quicker journey because we need to put up the dividers here. So if I talk very fast, that means you're thinking too slow, so excuse me for that. I am Irish, so I'm a bit of a fast talker. So ODSC, we've held events in San Francisco, in Boston, New York. We've one coming up in 2 weeks in London. In April, we did one in Kiev in Ukraine. And we've done one in Tokyo. And now, thanks to Naresh and his team, all credit goes to him. We're finally doing one here in India. So please give a big round of applause to Naresh. And we, of course, have to thank all of our wonderful speakers who've traveled from far and wide to come attend this event. So a lot of excitement around AI and data science, and by the way, I'll use those two terms interchangeably, even though we know AI is a bit higher up in the stack. A gentleman you may know, Sundar Pichai, famous son of India, happens to be Google CEO, announced at their conference last year they were switching from a mobile-first to an AI-first company. That's a big announcement from one of the biggest tech firms out there. A lot of you here, I was looking at the people who are showing up today, and a lot of you are from IT. I'm sure you've heard the expression that software is eating the world. Now people are saying that AI is eating software. DJ Patil, chief data scientist under the Obama administration, who you may know also, he said data science is the sexiest and most exciting job of the 21st century. That still holds true. And I'm sure you've heard the debate between Elon Musk and Bill Gates and other people saying that AI is going to doom us all, right? So one of my favorite quotes from that debate is from this guy from OpenAI. AI will most likely lead to the end of the world, but meanwhile, there'll be lots of great companies built. So I do agree with the great companies part for my children and your children or future children's sake. I don't agree with the end of the world part. So how do we get from a place where we're trying to do basic text analytics that you just saw to all of a sudden doom and gloom? People are thinking this stuff is advancing so far, it's going to cause the end of the world. And that's, of course, because of the advances in data science, a lot of which you just heard about over the last 10 years, and especially 5 years. Like, think about how far we've come with machine learning, supervised learning for classification algorithms, unsupervised learning for cluster analysis. Reinforcement learning was very much in the news, especially when Google's DeepMind came up with their AlphaGo Next program, and that subsequently went on using reinforcement learning and, as they call it, good old artificial intelligence, went on to beat the #1 chess player in the world, which happened to be another machine called Stockfish. It beat it in 64 out of 100 games. But what really made people sit up and pay attention was the fact that it learned from knowing nothing about chess. In 4 hours, it became one of the best chess players in the world. So that's a pretty astounding achievement. And as we've heard, there's been lots of advances in CNNs, RNNs, LSTMs, as we just heard about. I'm very good at these long-term dependencies, special type of RNN. More recently, GANs by Ian Goodfellow. This whole idea of pitting two neural networks against each other, and very good at generating training data. And I'm not a data scientist myself, but I've been using a lot of these techniques for the last decade or so. And I remember when random forest, for example, came out. That was big news 8 years ago, and still a lot of validation there. Now, of course, what's really helping here is the hardware side as well. So we've had CPUs and then GPUs, but now we have TPUs, right? Tensor processing unit. A tensor being this three-dimensional or higher matrix object. It's a step above vector. That's very good at optimizing tensor algorithms, which are the core of deep learning. So now NVIDIA, I was just at their conference back in March. They've got the DGX2. Intel bought Nirvana, which has got the neural networking processing chip. So lots of advances there. But this is what's near and dear to ODSC's heart, right? Because this is what takes all that wonderful research out of academia, out of the AI labs, and makes it accessible to you and me. So we're huge supporters of this community. This is the reason I call this, I wanted to call it open source data science, but that was too long, so we call this open data science. We're big fans of the data science programming languages like Python and R, you're familiar with. Julia came out of Vishal here in India. Actually, he was the one who sowed the seed of doing an ODSC conference here. I'm sure you're familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, not a programming language, but Brian Granger and his team built that extremely useful tool. We know the guys, Thomas Wiki from Quantopia. There's someone speaking from that here, Tom, later. PyMC3, probabilistic programming, all these great libraries and packages, because as you know, the languages are nothing without the libraries and packages. So if you're a Python programmer, you're spoiled for choice. With R, you got the CRAN libraries. Now everyone's doing big data, or what I like to call is data science at scale. Hadoop, Mahout, MongoDB, they've been around quite a while. And now you've got Apache Storm, Zeppelin more recently, and then from the from the LinkedIn team, you have Apache Kafka, came out recently. And deep learning, that's really taken the world by storm. You have a lot of big companies putting a lot of support around that. Amazon supporting MX Next, Zachary Chase and Alex Mola and others. You have TensorFlow, really good team up in California. Facebook is supporting PyTorch. We're really big supporters of Andy Mueller and Scikit-learn. That's been around a long time. Great machine learning package, Keras. And then, of course, we need to visualize all this stuff. R-Shiny just came out recently. D3 is one of my favorites. So we're big supporters of this. And a lot of ODSC conferences emphasize the language and tools because, again, this is what makes it accessible. A lot of this stuff, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort, freely downloadable software. And because of that, it's led to this massive expanding ecosystem of products and services, right? It's almost what I call stealth AI adoption. You talk to Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, they're all using data science at the core of their products, and this is what makes it, an exciting job in the 21st century. And it's not just across industry, like it's fintech to retail, I'm sure you've heard, but also across enterprise, right? If you're in HR wants to use AI to do, find better candidates. Sales they want better outcomes. And I was actually, I'm not going to stand in the stage here and wave my hands and say AI is everywhere, but I was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January. I don't know if you know this show, but it's 150,000 people, 4,500 companies exhibiting all kinds of products, refrigerators with AI in them, lights, teapots, stoves. AI was everywhere. And actually, one of the things people were talking about there was like AI was in a toilet. So I'm not saying AI is in the toilet, but this is an Alexa-enabled toilet you could talk to. And, it's hilarious because wasn't it like 50 years ago we put a man on the moon, and we put a man on the moon 50 years ago, and there was a lot of talk about sending someone to Mars. So we're sending a Tesla to Mars, I guess. We haven't got a person going to Mars yet, but we do have a toilet you can talk to. So that's progress for you. These are some graphs I borrowed from a report. Great report. You should read it from PwC. It's called Seizing the Prize. It very much illustrates the industry adoption of AI and data science in the near term, 0 to 3 years, and especially 3 to 7. So I'm definitely not trying to be here in the hype cycle. So whether you believe this or not, even if they're pretty far off, these are some pretty astounding numbers. So you see in the next 3 to 7 years, telecom, automotive, healthcare, energy, all adopting AI at a pretty rapid pace. Retail, driven by Amazon, Target, Wayfair, an astounding 92% adoption rate in the next 3 to 7 years. And look at financial services, where I came from, 100% adoption rate. And that's pretty impressive, again, whether you believe it or not, because think about it, in the history of this planet, has anyone ever stopped at version 1.0, right? They didn't just build the wheel out of stone and say, let's just stop there. This is just version 1, folks. So if you're in this industry, you're in a pretty good industry. But kind of getting back to ODSC, so who's going to build this, what I call the future of AI, right? Lots of products, lots of services, lots of tools you're going to build. You've got increased industry adoption. You have increased product adoption. You've got this expanding ecosystem. Like, I get very nervous because I'm like, there's so much stuff coming out, so many new libraries. Like, how am I going to get time to learn all this stuff? And then you've increased company risk, which I'm very worried about because I lived through the financial crisis where I had a job one day and then the company was gone the next. And that was because, people were using models and algorithms that they didn't understand. And a lot of fraud in California. So it was algorithms and fraud in California basically led to the financial collapse. And, as you go out into the world and you work for, your work is increasingly important to the companies, and it's increasingly important to society. So again, asking the question, who's going to build this future? And of course, the answer is data scientists, right? And we had a gentleman, Gail Vauquois, he's the core developer of scikit-learn based in France. And I don't know if this is his equation or he borrowed from somebody else, but I really liked what he put up. He did a keynote and he said, what is a data scientist? That's someone who's an expert in data science, and that's code plus math, right? Some kind of software engineering, some kind of math. That's what data science is. Simple enough, one would think. And you guys are in demand, right? This is from Indeed. You can see end of 2014 to 2017, millions of jobs out there, 100% increase, and the same is being seen here in India. I took this graph from this data science jobs in India. It was analytics jobs, which also included data science, and it showed from April 2017 to April 2018, like a 75% increase. So data scientists are really in demand here, like everywhere else. So you guys know what a unicorn is, right? A unicorn is this beautiful, magical creature with special powers. It can appear, it can disappear, it can fly. And I know there's about 20, 30% data scientists here, so I'm sure you're familiar with the term data science unicorn. But some of you who are not data scientists, a data science unicorn is also a very special creature because they have special powers. And the special power is called this data science skill set. And what a skill set that is. So look, the top hexagon there going clockwise, they have a very strong mathematical background, statistics, discrete math, continuous math, stochastic math, linear algebra, experts in all those. Very strong in programming, right? Your software engineers, your designers, your developers, your architects. You're very good at visualization. You have to make your data and your models actionable. You might be using streaming analytics. You're also experts in domain knowledge, right? If you're going to work in finance, you have to know how to model black shoals. You have to know how to do stochastic calculus, Taylor series. If you're going to work in healthcare, you have to know how to model patient outcomes, right? God forbid you don't know how to model that. If you're working in insurance, you have to have other domain knowledge. You have to be big data experts. When I started playing around with data science years ago, you could do it on your laptop and CSV files. Now you do it in the cloud. Now it's big data, all those platforms we're talking about. And then, of course, you have to be, everyone wants you to be an excellent storyteller, you know, tell a story around your data and models. So these unicorns, they do exist. I'm sure we're lucky enough to have a good few unicorns, data science unicorns in this audience today, and congratulations to you. But how do you find unicorns? You want to find a unicorn. You don't go out into the fields at night or anything. You go to universities, you go to companies that already have them, and companies with lots of money can recruit these unicorns. But for other companies, they go on what I call a unicorn fishing expedition. So they'll put up what I call a hot mess job description. And that's a pretty incredible job description. First of all, they're looking for someone with 3 degrees, someone with an engineering, master's, PhD, and not just anyone with a PhD, multiple programming languages. No one just does one anymore. 7 specialties. You have to know machine learning, deep learning, and if you know deep learning, it doesn't mean you know NLP, multiple platforms, and numerous other requirements. And the problem comes back to here. Data science, code plus math. Data science is a hard discipline. Those of you who are in it know it. And are there enough experts? Are there enough experts here in India, around the world? I sincerely don't think so. And why is that? Because data science, code plus math, right? I know a lot of data scientists. They spend a lot of time modeling, doing math models, doing feature engineering and all that stuff. They're coding 10 or 20 hours a week. They're not spending 40 hours a week coding. So they're not really software engineering experts. On the other side, over my career, I've known a lot of software engineers who are doing data science. And you know, anyone who knows me, knows I'm a nice person, right? I'm not trying to be mean here, but some of these math skills are just average. So I really think, like medicine, we need to expand the ecosystem of data science job descriptions. And one thing that's kind of coming to the front, some people call it AI engineering, some people call it data engineering, but you know, we've got to distinguish between data science and data science researchers who are doing the research. They're key to business, and also the people doing the engineering side of it. And AutoML, which is a pretty exciting development in the last year or so, is going to really help advance that. But don't get me wrong, like if you're in data science, don't start throwing stuff at the stage here. I'm not saying AutoML is going to automate data science. Even the engineers still need these core data science skills. And that's fundamental to ODSC because we're not a data science conference. So don't start heading out the door and like, this is not a data science conference. We're a data science skills conference. So it doesn't matter if you're a data scientist, an engineer, or someone in marketing. We want to teach you those skills. Here's a Venn diagram to illustrate this point. So we still need, you know, these unicorn data sciences are very important. to industry. But on the other side, we have data scientists who have those advanced degrees. They're very good on the modeling side, feature selection, engineering, domain knowledge, and they have the engineering skills, but it's not quite as high up in the stack. On the other side, you have the AI engineer, the data engineer. They have a bachelor's or master's. They're strong in software engineering. They're platform experts. They may know AutoML. They have the data science skills, but they might not be as deep in the weeds as some of the data science experts. And the job market is kind of bearing that out at the moment. So again, I'm not saying Indeed.com has all the data science jobs in the world. And this is like not exact, but it's just an extrapolation. You look at Silicon Valley, you search the term data science, and you see a lot of data science jobs. They're not all data science jobs. You see a lot of 8 or 9 I got, and then about 7 times more if you search for a skill like machine learning. Same is true for Seattle, New York, Boston, even here in Bangalore. Look at the term data scientist. I got 185. This is yesterday. 499 when I look for data science, and when I look for the term machine learning, I got much more. And the kind of results I was getting like developer application modernization, software engineer, software development analyst, software developer engineer, whatever that is. And you can see like these are basically software engineering jobs, but they're really AI engineering jobs or data engineering jobs, and there's a lot of those out there. And again, the number is about 7 times greater. So I do believe this is why we want to be a data science skills conference, because again, regardless whether you're a data scientist, an engineer, or marketing, I think these data science skills are going to be important for the future. And just to illustrate that a little bit more, so the core, these unicorn data scientists, you're still going to be the most in demand, the best paid, working on exciting projects. They're still going to exist here in India and around the world. You have the research data science, as I call it. They're essential for business, making sure we don't mess up. We're not relying on these models too much, that the model validation still works. But the bulk of the work, when you think about all those products and services and all those platforms you need to use, this AI engineering is going to be providing that. And think about extrapolating that more. Like, do you want a QA engineer who doesn't know how to validate and test your models? Do you want a product manager, or a project manager working on your project who doesn't understand the data science lifecycle, which is pretty different from an IT lifecycle? That's very important. And here's where the reason why I'm excited to come to India, because I think India has a lot to play here. Because look at your strengths, right? I think India overtook the US last year, having the most number of software engineers, 5.2 million. I'm sure that's off by a couple of 100,000. A lot of strong Java, but developers, C++, but heading into Python, R, and Julia. Very strong education system, large number of technical universities, solid maths and sciences. These are your strengths. And strong language and team skills. Like, you guys have been, the outsourcing industry is here. Like, and I really believe this because there's a lot of debate in the US about is it the US or is it China that's going to lead the world in AI? And to a certain degree, they're definitely doing it in the research side. But it's always been a very open technology market here, and China doesn't have that open technology market. So this is where I do believe India can steal a march on that. So to summarize, because I want to get you guys out of here, the goals of ODSC, we want to really strongly support the open source data science community. We want to make data science more accessible to all, and that's why, in addition to running these conferences, we've got about 24 free meetups running around the world. We have a blog site. We're always trying to promote these platforms and these speakers, and we want to focus on data science skills. So as it says in the T-shirt, and as you see behind me, the future of AI is here, because ODSC is not the future of data science. You, the people in this room, are the future of AI and data science, and India is the future of AI and data science, and that's why we want to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheamus. That was quite inspiring. Thank you for that. Talk very fast, that's good. All right, I'm going to run through some important information that you need to know, and then we're going to break in 10 minutes so that you can go grab coffee, tea. Are you guys having a good time so far? Yes. Sorry, what's that? Yes. Can't hear still. Right. ODSC claims to be the largest applied data science conference, so it is research, but more around applied data science, and which is why I'm quite excited. As Sheamus said, that's our forte in some sense here in India, and hence the conference. This is the day 2 of the conference. For those of you who were here yesterday, we had pre-conference workshops. We also have post-conference workshops on Sunday. I know you guys have been sitting for a while. How about a quick exercise? I want you to please stand up and form groups of 10 people who have these roles or skills with them. All right, please stand up. We need to move quickly. Uh, 10 people or less with these different things. Yes. This is the awkward moment of trying to network with people, which is one of the reasons why you come to the conference, right? All right, I see few groups forming, which is pretty cool. No one's going to take your chair. You can move around, don't worry. So that was not just random data that I showed up on the screen, right? If you actually go and look, we do have at this conference 544 people from 274 different companies. And a lot of those roles that were put up over there, as you can see, are actually people here at the conference. We're also quite delighted that we have people here from 10 different countries attending this conference. I'm sure in the future we would have a lot more, but 10 is a good start. Would you agree? Awesome. And I would like to thank all the speakers. We have 65 speakers here with us from 9 different countries. And one of the things we try to focus quite a bit is on the gender diversity part of it, but also in general diversity part of it. And you know, we tried our best to try and get as many women speakers. So we have 10 women speakers on the overall program, which I think, again, in some of these areas is harder. And so, you know, it was a lot more work in some sense. But if you do see any of these speakers, please do thank them, because, you know, without them, this conference wouldn't be possible. Let's do another quick exercise, right? I want you to just stand up wherever you are. If you have traveled 5 kilometers from near the hotel, then please sit down. If you live in 5 kilometers radius of this hotel. How about 25 kilometers? That's pretty much most of the people in Bangalore. All right. How about 50 kilometers? All right. So this is, I'm assuming everyone who's standing don't live in Bangalore. Cool. How about 100 kilometers? Actually, nobody would sit down. 200 kilometers. That would cut out Hyderabad and places like that. Okay, how about 1,000 kilometers? Wow, all right. Thank you all for coming from a long distance to the conference. I don't know how many of you are aware, but we actually go through a pretty long process, about 6 months of doing paper selections to put this program together. What this graph basically is showing here is we had about 110 proposals that came in for presentation, out of which 67 made it through. So quite a bit of effort goes in terms of refining these proposals, going through, trying to align them into the program and so forth. Also, we try and give a pretty good distribution across different kinds of sessions. So they are not all just talks, they have hands-on workshops and so forth. So we try and give a good mix of things. The schedule, if you would have seen after this, we are going to split into 4 different tracks. And what bases are those tracks? We used AI for it. which means it's completely random. All right? There's some kind of a theme you can see for each track, but it's also very difficult because we also have to look at session types because room layouts need to be different for different kinds of sessions. Also, availability of speakers is always a constraint. So if you put all of that, we have an algo that tries and build the program and basically spits out garbage. But those are the 4 tracks that we have. This is going to be track 1, all right, where we are. This is going to be track 1. As soon as we finish, they're going to pull the dividers over here. So this hall is going to be split into 2 halls. This is going to be Grand Ballroom 1 or track 1. That's going to be track 2, all right. Track 3 is back there. There's a room called Jupiter, so you just need to go out and around. There is a track called Jupiter, so that's the 3rd track. And 4th is opposite this direction, Neptune. All right, so you're going to find yourself in different planets after this, hopefully. Everyone's got their kits. Can you please see if you all have feedback forms in them? For those of you saying yes, I'm sorry, lying doesn't work. So we don't do feedback forms. What is the reason we don't do feedback forms? It's not that we don't value feedback, but what we don't find very constructive is a written feedback given at the end of the conference, because by then the conference is over, right? And then you have to wait a year at best before we can do something about it. Is that acceptable? Not to me, not to my team. So we decided we're going to abandon feedback forms. We're going to encourage people to give feedback throughout the day so we can try and fix things as we go along. But more importantly, I think there are a lot of things you can help us fix, right? It doesn't have to be a small group of volunteers trying to do everything. You know, you can help us fix small things. So what I'm encouraging here is if you can fix, please do, because it will help all of us have a better experience. If something's outside your control, please let us know, and we will try and best to fix it during the conference. Someone said the camera is in between. We try to fix it a little bit while it's going on. Didn't wait for the feedback forms to come in, right? So that's the spirit behind it. The second thing that's different about our conference, how many of you know law of 2 feet? Some of you have already used that by leaving this room. So the law of 2 feet basically says that if you find yourself in a session where you're neither adding value or getting value, what do? Look for the feedback form which is not there. So what do you do next? Take your 2 feet and move to a place where you will add value or get value. It's absolutely not rude to get up during a session and leave. I'll repeat again, it's absolutely not rude to get up during a session and leave. Yes, it is rude to make noise and use swearing words and get out of a room and disturb everyone, but if you quietly leave a room, no one's going to be upset. Actually, I was lying, we have 4 tracks. Actually, we have 5 tracks. 4 in the halls and 5th outside the hall, which is usually where the most interesting conversations happen. All right, so if you don't find anything in the 4 halls interesting, join a few of us who will be hanging out outside. I want to quickly thank our sponsors, without whom, again, we would not be able to financially pull this conference off. And it's not, again, just financial, but also help in terms of marketing, help in terms of helping us find speakers and so forth. So, you know, some of them are outside, some of them are not able to come here. But please do thank our sponsors right from JP Morgan, DataRobot, Intel, Nime, Must, InSophie. Some of these guys are outside. Please do visit them. They will be happy to see you. Wi-Fi, I hope everyone reads email, right? And you know the story behind Wi-Fi. I'm hoping most people should be okay without the Wi-Fi because thanks to Jio, that's not really a problem anymore in India, right? Everybody gets now a 4G connection with under 300 rupees. I want to thank the program committee, and I want to just quickly request them to please stand up if you're in the room. All right. So these are the guys to blame if you're not happy with the program. All right? It took a lot of effort to put this, and all of us are volunteers. None of us actually do this full time. I think that's one of the big misconceptions. People think that this is what we do for a living. We all have regular daytime jobs just like you. This is an expensive hobby that we have outside that. All right? So with that, I'll thank you, and we will see you back again, everybody together in the evening for the reception. For the keynote before, and then for the reception after that. We'll step out now. There's coffee, tea being served, and then you can find the 4 halls wherever you want to go. We're going to be splitting the halls now, and we'll start sharp at 10:30 again. Thank you.